Yo, thanks for checking out the podcast. This is Dan Giffen. I would be happy to help you reach your goals producing music with Ableton. I've got courses on my website, liveproducersonline.com. The intro to Ableton music production if you're newer to Ableton. I've got tons and tons of videos and content to take you from knowing nothing about it to producing full tracks. Also, I've got courses on DJing and how to perform with a live band using Ableton for backing tracks. If you're more experienced in Ableton, you might consider joining the membership. The Pro membership gives you access to sending your projects to me several times a month and send me your actual projects. I'll help you work on your tracks, whether it's mixing or production or whatever you need help with in your Ableton projects. You can find out about all this good stuff on liveproducersonline.com or check out the link in the show notes for this episode. Thanks for checking out the podcast. I've got an awesome episode today. It's extra special with my friends from Oakland, California, Animal Prints. And here's today's podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Ableton Music Producer Podcast. I have my friends with me today that I met in Austin, Texas, which was like almost 2 weeks ago. We actually tried recording this podcast episode a week ago, right after the conference, and failed miserably because the platform we were using ended up crashing and it didn't record our hour-long conversation. So we get to do it all over again today. Super fun. We have Grant and Faye with me, and they are in the band called Animal Prince, Prince. Thank you for joining. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, we're just like really driving down those points. You know, it's good to talk about them, rehash, just extra.
That's true.
Our memories. So.
We're going to be experts on this conference by the end of this. We already talked about it 6 billion times.
For sure.
Be ready to meet people in a few months, you know, like give them the lowdown. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, we should just host our own conference, really, next year. But for anybody who doesn't know, the DIY Musicians Conference is a conference held by the company CD Baby, which is a really large music distribution company. They do a lot of other things for DIY artists. But a lot of the conference was about helping independent artists make a living, make a career, kind of grow their music in all different areas of like marketing and monetization and all different aspects. So I asked my friends, these two lovely people with us today, to join and just share, go back and forth, different tips and tricks that we learned from the conference, from different breakout sessions and workshops. And it was a lot of fun. Anybody who hasn't been or doesn't know about it, I encourage you to check it out next year. It's definitely, I think, worth the money, and it's pretty cheap. I got my early bird ticket for like $100 or something. It was like a 4-day conference, 3 days.
Here to say that we bought our tickets 2 weeks in advance, also for $100. So.
What?
130.
Oh, they were 130. Okay,
130.
never mind.
You guys scalping those tickets?
We found a coupon code online.
Yeah, there were
Oh,
160.
nice.
There was a coupon code. Really not bad, even a last minute decision. So,
Dude, coupons are where it's at.
yeah.
That's great. Yeah, seriously, save money. Invest that back into your merch. Well, yeah, so let's just kind of go back and forth, kind of like we did before. Well, first of all, I know you guys are Ableton users. One reason I invited you on this podcast, it is the Ableton podcast. But today I think is going to be really helpful for anybody who's like, I want to be a full-time musician. I want my band or my solo project to help me actually make money and to actually get off the ground, to grow a strong following. A lot of people who listen to this podcast are just producers or engineers using Ableton, doing it on their own. But it's nice to be able to pay the bills, doing what you love, making your own music. First of all, tell me how you guys got started with Animal Prints before we start sharing tips and things we learned from the conference.
We had like a 5-piece like funk jazz combo before we started Animal Prints, and originally Animal Prints started out as like a solo project of something that I did, and that was my attempt to break out of doing a more traditional band and exploring songwriting using electronic elements. I'm a violinist and a vocalist, and so I kind of wanted to push myself into composing using a different kind of toolkit, and that ended up being Ableton for me, which is what I use to like both do my songwriting, and it's what we use during our live set as well. And Grant, my husband, is a drummer and percussionist, and so in our live set now, like I use a loop station, vocal harmonizers, my voice and violin, and then Grant uses Ableton, which we use to like launch our live set. It's where we play our tracks out of, and then an acoustic drum kit and the sensory percussion system, like triggers for percussion.
Oh, I didn't know you were using sensory percussion. Did we talk about this?
I don't know if we talked about this.
Dude, that is my jam. I went to Gearfest. Like 2 months ago. For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, it's basically like these drum triggers that actually send audio into software that sensory percussion made. And it's it basically has like its own software, and you can like really get deep into the sound design, and you can play your acoustic drums but still have like all these different sounds coming out of it. It's really sensitive and it's amazing. Yeah, that thing's cool. I'm so happy you're using that. I'm gonna fly out to Oakland now just to play with yours.
It's really, I discovered them, I guess, last year's Moog Fest, and they were there, and it was just like, all right, I have to get it. Like, so yeah, as Faye said, like been a drummer for most of my life, and mostly acoustic drums. And then a couple years ago, when Faye started Animal Prince, I started diving into Ableton and sound design and using MIDI through Octapads. And I still use MIDI through live in our live performance. But once I first played the sensory percussion, so it maps the drum head, and you can play the drum just like a normal acoustic drum, but there's different zones. You can have different samples and effects on the zones. And it was just amazing to be able to feel the drums but play all these different samples and sounds at the same time. So right now I use an Octapad and sensory percussion in my live set. I'm constantly tweaking like my combination of acoustic and electronic drums. I feel like every show is a little different. Even actually tonight's going to be a little different than our previous show. So
that makes it fun.
Yeah,
it's not the same thing every time. It's easy to get bored that way.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's Animal Prince. So we're a duo now, and we produce in Ableton and play live with acoustic instruments in Ableton. So
yeah. I think we could just nerd out about like drum triggers all day, honestly, for another time. Everybody go check out Animal Prince's music. If you haven't heard them already, definitely check them out. We'll include links in the show notes to all of your music and happenings and stuff. So check that out for anybody listening. But the theme of this episode is talking about like what we learned from the conference, DIY Musicians Conference. Let's go back and forth and talk about the different workshops. They had all these sessions and these industry leaders in the music industry sharing different things, from like email marketing to Pandora was there, and they're launching this new platform called AMP, which is like helping artists understand the analytics of their streaming of their music and connect with their fans on a deeper level. Let's kind of go back and forth and talk about like one workshop to another. What was one workshop that really stuck out to you, and why?
One workshop that stood out to me was, the title of this workshop was crowd engagement and empowering your fans. And
Jason Leckberg, direct to fan sales. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes. Yeah, I found a lot of the points that he was saying to be super insightful. As an independent musician, the biggest hurdle to supporting yourself is often how to end up monetizing your music and your business. And so he manages several different bands, the largest of them being, I think, Steel Panther, which... and Sick Puppies, and there was a ton of people that he worked with, Yeah, and so the gist of what he was saying was that as a musician, you have to participate in all these different platforms, your Instagram, your Twitter, Facebook, etc. But really, you own your own website and your email subscriber list. And it would be silly of you not to really fully take advantage of that and leverage that. And he was talking about the average revenue that an artist receives from 10,000 streams, across all these different platforms. And it's basically like $35. I think it comes out to something around that. I think.
Yeah. I took some notes on the stats that you're talking about right now. And I just I had my phone out and I was like frantically like taking pictures of all of his slides because I was like, this is crazy. But it was like he was talking about like what every fan is worth. And at the end of the day, it's like you can make $29 so much easier by selling T-shirts and tickets to local shows and CDs and your merch. You can get to $29 like 5 times faster than you can trying to get 10,000 streams. It was like $29 equals 9,667 streams on average on Spotify. Yeah, it's wild.
It's a disheartening number.
Very, really? Yeah, a little piece of everybody died inside when they like heard that.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you want 1 million streams? Well, you could just sell T-shirts to 100 people and it'll be money, basically. Exactly. And so he really focused on how to get your merch game up. And he talked about using Shopify plugins on your website. He was also talking about a business that was actually based in Austin. I hope that I get this right. I think you pay a monthly subscription rate to some of these services. Amplifier and Inked was another one. And
Merchly, was that another one?
Merchly sounds like
Print on demand.
Print on demand.
Yeah.
And basically they're all print on demand services. So if as somebody orders one piece of merch, let's say an extra small women's T-shirt, there's a service that will print that one for you instead of you having to tote around, God forbid, like the box of T-shirts that is just never organized as hard as you try.
Exactly. Merchandising is a huge profit margin if you do it right. There's the Creative Juice podcast. One of the speakers there, Circa from Indepreneur, he talks a ton about merchandise in like a 5-episode series. And I saw so many people there at the conference, the DIY conference, talking about merchandising. And as an artist, you can make a lot of money doing that if you do it right. Yeah. Some bands
is how they make most of their money on a tour, especially if you're like the opening act and you're maybe not getting the cut of the door. But that's how you can make money is merch. And actually, I was excited about our friend used to work for Tyler, the Creator, and she was saying at festivals and stuff. He has his own fashion line.
But he probably started his fashion line because that was how he was making money.
Yeah, he makes so much money for us. That's like most of his income, which is contributes more to this profit for sure. So
yeah. Totally.
And he's actually created like a store experience for users and for his fans, and so to the point where people will wait in line before a merch booth opens if they know that he will be selling things there because they're so excited about the different options that they'll have and like the special items they'll have access to. And that was something that Jason kind of touched on as well, was like really he emphasized something that Steel Panthers did, which is putting out a monthly design for T-shirts or mugs, etc. Just giving people opportunities to support you financially. And then again, he was saying that they use those services to do print on demand so that they don't have to run, like send out huge numbers of things to printers and end up with a box of like a pallet of mugs in somebody's garage, and
just having to constantly mail stuff like 24/7 can be very daunting. I've learned that myself for my band Philia. I just made a post the other day like, hey, my merch store's open. I finally got it all organized. I actually just did it through Bandcamp because it's super easy and they have like a merch store set up, and now I'm like at the point now I was like, oh, I got a couple orders. So now I have to like run to the post office like the next couple of days and keep mailing stuff out. So that print on demand is definitely convenient and nice.
Yeah. So he talked about a few different ways to kind of set yourself up with that regard and like using Shopify to help you manage those kinds of things. And then he also talked about the use of fan clubs and empowering people to support you through through fan clubs. And so I don't know Did they charge to be a member of the fan club? Was there a fee for somebody to join the fan club?
Yeah, I think the way he had it set up, it was like for $5 a month, you get exclusive access to like videos and like live chats and unreleased songs and stuff like that. I actually just set up my Patreon to do that. I call it like the Philia Friends Club, and I haven't officially announced it or launched it yet, but basically I'm doing the kind of what he talked about through Patreon. It only takes 8% of like a subscription transaction. I know Shopify is kind of expensive, and other membership websites can be kind of expensive starting out. And that's why I chose Patreon. And we're just going to hang out and do a live chat as we're working at my studio, and just like showing people, hey, this is the music we're working on. This is what it looks like. And then like giving discounts on merchandise that we sell through that Bandcamp. And then also like doing a mixtape every month. So I'm going to do like remixes. And especially as a producer, like this is the Ableton podcast. So I'm assuming most listeners here have access to like a home studio where they can keep making music. You should be able to crank out a lot of content as far as just even doing remixes or just creating little mixes of other songs, giving that away to your fans. And one thing that Jason was talking about in this workshop is like continuing to pump out content. Like having a lot of content coming out on a regular basis is really key to stay connected with your fans and people, especially through social media. But yeah, like a fan club of some sort, a monthly subscription is a good way to continue to have that revenue to be able to justify the time you invest into your fans. And he was talking about the super fan thing too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And he mentioned that, you know, like he broke out like 10 different core supporters, and he showed how much those people had contributed to some of these bands over the years. And like the number was kind of staggering, you know, and
right.
Like people that would buy every single month, if they had a new shirt out, they would buy those things. And he was like, you know, I mean, like we've given people so many opportunities to support us, so that like the people that really want to be there, they can be, you know, and like if you have something like a fan club, etc., like we've created opportunities for them to get closer, or like for them to meet the members of the band, you know, like whether or not it's like you know, like a meet and greet like with people after or before a show, advanced ticket purchases, like front of the line kind of thing, like first availability things. And he was like, you know, ultimately like this has really helped to generate a lot of like revenue and support their music. And so it's kind of a missed opportunity if you don't think about the ways that you can do that and like empower people that want to help you financially. So
right.
that was interesting. Yeah.
And like he also talked about like, you know, people don't really, I think, listen to CDs that much anymore. If they're buying a CD, like for me personally, if I buy a CD, I'm really not going to listen to it. I have an old CD player in my car, but I never use that. Like it's all in the streaming age. So like your merch, if you can create great merch that people actually use and t-shirt designs that they love, that's going to go a lot farther. But in the end of the day, people will buy shit they don't want or they don't need just to support you. Like that's, if they're really into your music, they'll literally just buy whatever they can just to support you if you make it readily available to them and make it easy to do that.
And the last thing that he mentioned that I liked a lot was that he said people will buy why you're doing something, not what you're doing. Meaning like they're buying into your brand and the like passion and drive behind it, not necessarily what you're doing, you know, like
exactly
in line with what you're saying. Like, is somebody going to buy your CD? Like, why are they doing that? Because it makes, you know, like because your brand resonates with them is ultimately the answer. And yeah, he kind of harped on that, like make sure your brand is
relevant to the audience that you're speaking to.
Yeah.
I think,
it makes sense to like give back and really cultivate, or to really feed those fans that like show support in you, because that's what that's like if they're gonna go reach out and tell people about your band, you know, like that's the best way to treat or to grow your fans is to treat your fans that already are into you well, and to like to show the world that you have fans too.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's true. Like, and one thing to kind of wrap up with this direct to fan sales session we were talking about with Jason. I mean, one thing he said is like 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your super fans and real customers. And that's true. So like, if you just love the hell out of the people that love the hell out of you, that's going to go a lot farther. Like, it only takes one person to share with another person, like a great experience. Yeah. And that person, then if they engage with you on like Instagram or whatever, hit up those comments, slide into those DMs, you know, like the more you connect and build a relationship with your followers and fans that love your music, they're going to talk about those positive experiences to like another person. And that person might talk about it to another person if they dig it. It's like a chain reaction and it goes real far.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Hearing you guys talk about this presentation reminds me of the one I went to. I don't think either of you went, but it was about niche markets, and it was Simon Tam.
I think, what was his organization? Or he has a band.
Music Business Hacks.
Yeah, okay, that's his, like, Music Business Hacks is his business,
But he had a band that basically became huge in anime conferences. None of their songs were about anime. They just started playing anime conferences and became huge, and they were a staple at every anime event across, here, China, Japan, like all around. And they just like totally fed into this fan group, and like they said they made this music video at this conference, and their record label wanted to had a huge opportunity to release it like exclusively on, I forget, like Billboard or something like that. But they're like, no, this should be released on an anime website. Like, this video is for our fans. And he was just like, stay true to like who's supporting you and like who your music is made for, not like keep on climbing up to necessarily the biggest platform, whatever. Just like stay true to your fans and
go know your audience really well.
Wide.
Yeah. And one thing that he said, if like when you're building your fans, or if you're starting out, he's like, think about one person, like one type of person, and you want to focus on that one person, because there's going to be like 1,000 people like that. Stay focused on that one type of person, what they like.
Yeah, totally. I actually took notes saying exactly that from his podcast. Yeah, stop thinking of large pools of people. I think we've all done that. It's like, okay, who am I trying to reach? Like, who is my music for? And you think about the masses, and it's easy to kind of get drowned. But if you just think of one person that's like your ideal fan, think about that one person as you brand yourself. Yeah, man, that's really good.
Seth Godin, who's written tens of books that have ended up on the New York Times bestseller list. He's like a marketing, that's his whole thing, is start small, start very, very small, and really know who you are and who your audience is, instead of, the mass appeal thing, because ultimately the choice is doing something that differentiates you from everybody else, or just being another person with maybe mass appeal, but is the same, like has no special qualities, and so that's interesting. What was the other piece of advice that he gave?
He said, I wrote down here, he said, what is something that you love that turns 5 people off? Like what's something that you, basically you want to like find something that turns 5 people off. So it's like kind of this not controversial, but it's like, it's a niche thing, it's like, one person out of 5 is going to like it, but they're going to love it because these other 5 people don't like it,
That's good. He also mentioned, building off of that, it helps if you can finish the sentence, I am the only artist that is blank. It's like, so I'm the only artist that is doing this, or I'm the only artist that looks like this, or I'm the only artist that blah, blah, blah. And fill in those blanks for yourself. And that'll like help you start to think through what differentiates you or your music or your brand or image from everybody else out there. I thought that was good idea. He also talked about like hashtagging as far as like growing a following, which I thought was really interesting. He said like aim for hashtags of 3s. This is kind of a new concept for me. Like when it comes to like sharing your content, like whether you have a new song that's released or like you were pushing for your merch or just posting pictures or whatever, to use hashtags of 3s at the end. And one is like more higher level. So if I release a new track and, for example, it's like this really funky EDM song. So I might use like at a higher level, like the hashtag electro-funk or something like that. And then doing 3 like higher level, really kind of more mainstream popular. And Instagram will tell you like how many actual hashtags are being used around that hashtag. So find like a really large number, like in the millions or hundreds of thousands. And then a mid-level hashtag that might be more like funky jam music, you know, hashtag funky jam or jamtronica, right? It's not as popular of a genre or something like that. Or like, you know, I love my dog. I have one of my recent tracks is like a picture of my dog. So that kind of thing. And then having like a real clever niche tag, like something that's a little more specific of a hashtag that's not real common. And to doing that on more posts will possibly get a lot more awareness from different people, different audiences. I thought that was interesting too. He talked about.
I like thinking about it in those tiers. I never like thought about that, having the different tiers of hashtags. I just try to go for like the most, like the biggest hashtags, and then a couple of like funny ones. It's good to have like think about that. That's really strategic. Yeah,
he said he grew his audience doing that pretty well. And he also talked about like going to platforms where there's momentum already. Like he talked about like doing Comic-Con or anime conventions. Like doing conventions is where they found their niche and their audience. And going to where those pools of people are and engaging with them. Maybe it's a Facebook group. Maybe it's like an actual local event where you just go and you just hit people up or hand out like a card or whatever with your band on it, have meaningful conversations, ask people to listen and share. Going to where your people are actually at once you identify who your one person is.
This wasn't at the conference, but I think it was an indie-preneur thing. The Circa was talking about hashtags. In Instagram, you can follow a hashtag, right? So it's like, yeah, there's communities built around these hashtags, and you follow it. So whenever someone uses the hashtag, it shows up in your feed. So that's when like encouraging you to interact with people that are following this hashtag and creating community around the hashtag, not just a profile.
Oh.
Yeah, totally. That's a great idea. Yeah, Circa, he and Corinne had an awesome deep dive marketing workshop. They actually did 3. I only went to the first one. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. I'm going to like rope him in. I'm going to start blowing up his email inbox because he hasn't responded yet. So Circa, if you're listening, I'm watching you. I'm coming for you.
He's great, man.
He's awesome. Yeah. He's a brilliant genius, and he's an Ableton user too. He just started getting into it. I was talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I just bought a push," and I was like, "Okay, I could teach you how to use that if you want to help me like market myself."
Only $34.99 a month, bro.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. We've actually Circa and Corinne, they have a company called Indie-Preneur. And as you mentioned, he does the podcast called Creative Juice.
The Creative Juice. Yeah, it's awesome. It has a juice box on it. It's orange.
And we actually used his program online. He has like a series of courses that are really targeted on Facebook analytics and Facebook marketing. And we used that to put out our first music video. And I mean,
you said it blew up, right?
Yeah, we had an amazing amount of success with that. We ended up getting hundreds of thousands of views on it. That's and awesome. Like definitely over 1,000 engagements on the post and like several hundred comments. So, I mean, their whole approach is super nerdy and like based on data. But I mean, they've done so much testing to kind of figure out what does well on social media platforms, and they're like specifically focused mostly on Facebook and I think also Instagram now.
Yeah.
But
they keep up on it because that we would put that video out a year ago, and like Facebook changes the algorithm constantly.
Right.
So you kind of have to know because Facebook's trying to basically they're trying to
optimize for whatever
their profits, so
their needs are.
They're tweaking it always, so they
right.
You kind of have to like keep up with what is the best way to put out your video. But
yeah, they put like thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours into kind of testing what's going on to find out like the latest on what's working out. Because I mean, we, as people that have had a Facebook band page for several years, at first, like I think we've all noticed the ways in which that can change really dramatically quickly over time. And so
and a lot of people are using groups now because of that, because if you organically, when you make a post, Facebook's going to show it to more people in a group than it does a page a lot of times based off that. But now apparently Facebook they're gonna roll out advertising inside groups too now, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how much has changed over the past 2 years. I think Facebook was like the peak, platform for artists, and then people are starting to go away from it. And obviously, I think Instagram's the biggest. So, but like Facebook, you need for like events and everything. So, it'd be interesting to see what is the latest that Circa and Entrepreneurs is talking about.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So one of the questions that somebody asked Circa in that session was, I'm a new artist. I'm about to put out my first project. How should I go about doing that? And their whole philosophy is all about videos. And he was like, look, video is definitely the best way to go. And if I were you, if you have any amount of, let's say you have $1,000 of budget on this video, and that includes making the video and promotion. What we've seen is that videos that are, low production quality, super authentic and genuine, and acoustic live tend to do the best. And you just want to think about you want to be able to be in somebody else's feed and appear as though you're somebody's friend. And he's like, the videos that tend to do the worst are very highly produced, cured, beautiful, high production value.
Yeah, over commercialized kind of content.
Yeah, and it was like people
this
have.
This is for like Facebook and Instagram, right?
This was for Facebook and Instagram.
Right. It makes sense that like if you're on YouTube and Vivo, I think it's quite different.
Yeah, totally different. But for the purposes of Facebook and Instagram, if you're trying to appeal to somebody that's never seen you before and you're in their feed, something that is more just real, even filmed on an iPhone. And he was suggesting that he was like, if you have $1,000, spend $250 on getting somebody to film the whole thing, one moving shot, no editing, and then put all the rest into marketing it using targeting. And they have a whole system for doing that, like your targeting based on who you might sound like, etc. And then he also touched on the language, the posts that you would want to have on that video. And he was saying that, for them, they're all about titles of posts. He's like, ask a question, ask something that invites response from somebody else, write down something that's going to kind of pique their interest or even challenge them to respond.
Yeah, take an action of some sort. Yeah. Yeah,
I bet you can't name somebody who's better at this than. And then he also mentioned closing those statements with a ... with an ellipsis, which is the whole kind of 10 things you wouldn't believe ... I bet you've never, but that whole kind of
Well, you're trying to enact engagement because really you want people to comment on it. That's the biggest way to boost the video.
Yeah, right. You'll get way more engagement if you actually get comments on a post. Or it'll organically boost it much farther than if you just like it. And I think that's and I heard Circa talk about this on the podcast too, he was talking about, don't just be that person that posts your new track, because you spend hours, blood, sweat, and tears on a song and you're so proud of it. And you put literally 20 to 30 hours into this track. And then you release it into the world and you get 4 comments and you're just wow, nobody's listening. And you get maybe 100 streams on SoundCloud and you're just well, that was kind of a waste, but it doesn't mean that people don't like it. It just means that maybe the way you actually brought it out into the world, presented it, sucked, so it's it's worth putting the extra time and energy to actually have a strategy behind how you put your music out there. Because if you just make a Facebook post once and you're hey, check out my shit, that's not going to do much. And everybody does that now. I see a lot of my friends who are absolute killers when it comes to production and being a producer, and they make awesome tracks and it gets no streams because they're literally just one little link to their hyper follow on DistroKid, or they link it to their SoundCloud and they're hey, I dropped a new track, check it out. And it's just the link and it's just a static picture. And it's kind of sad because I listen to it and I'm this is so good, but you have to have a strategy. If you want your music heard, you have to have a push behind it. And that's kind of everything we've been talking about, is it's worth putting the time and the energy into doing that.
Totally. And actually first let's circle back to the super fans. As far as like tapping into that when you're posting, like letting people know when something's coming out, teasing it. And also, I mean, shamelessly, like even direct messaging your friends or texting you, we're going to drop a video today. Can you share and comment on it? We did our video, and like your fans, your friends, family will definitely do that. They're like, yeah, sure. So if you get just 20 friends and family members to do that, that's huge.
Dude, you're absolutely right. And there's that fear though. Like I know that everybody at some point has kind of been like, well, what if they don't like it? You know, like
you have to let your fans know how to support you. Like they're not gonna assume they know what to do. Like you have to tell them the best way to support you. And
it's true.
But yeah, and then continuing on what you're saying about like building up, YouTube had a lot of people there. YouTube Music, YouTube Music is another app that they're into streaming and connecting it to YouTube videos. And there was a big team there at the conference that was super helpful, and they had a lot of sessions. They had their own room on the weekend, but they were similar to what Faye was saying. Like building your YouTube channel and getting the best use of it is constantly posting. It's just the amount. It's not necessarily the quality. Although one point the guy made was like, it's often not the quality of the video that affects people, is the quality of the audio. Like poor audio can really turn people off. Or like if it's highs are too much, then like people will turn down the volume, and it's just the audio is almost more important than the video. Similar with the title and the tagline, they're saying that the thumbnail is the most important.
Yes, I remember you saying that. Yep.
So if you're posting your video, sometimes it's the last thing you think of before you post, but if you choose a screenshot, they're suggesting to download that screenshot, boost the contrast and the colors, make it really vivid and like very clear, and even put text on the thumbnail, the title of it or whatever that question is. The prompt. And
this is on that YouTube video, right? Like, so when it shows up,
and so that it's like, it's clickbait, right? Like that's what
it is.
The thumbnail is. It's your book title.
Book cover, really.
Yeah, sorry, book cover.
Yeah, there was another workshop kind of building off of that idea that I was on. It's a new app. It's in beta right now. I'll be curious to see how it does in the future. I got to meet the guy that was like one of the founders or inventors of it. He started this website called arttracks.com. arttracks.com. What it is, it's like you can create like lyric videos, or you can create video snippets. They have a bunch of stock video in there too, or you could import your own. You import the audio as well, and you can sync up the audio. It's like a video editor. If you guys are ever familiar with canva.com, it's just like an image creator cloud platform. This is like that. It's the video version of Canva. But what you can do is it's free for the first 10 minutes of content you create, and I think it's like $10 a month after that, which could be worth it if you want a lot of content. But it helps you like share directly to social platforms from the actual cloud of your videos that you create. It also has like an audio visualizer. So you can just import your audio and it'll start creating effects based on the WAV file of the audio. So it's all like real syncopated, kind of engaging video kind of ideas. So arttracks.com is another good way to kind of catch people's attention on social media when you're releasing a track, or just to crank out new material and have something to share. Like you were saying, it's not always like about delivering the most high quality content ever, but like that consistency is key to continue to build momentum for your artist to stay in front of people. So that's kind of another hack. There's also unsplash.com, unsplash.com. It's like free royalty photos. If you don't want to have to take a picture for every album art, cover art you ever release, Unsplash is I think pretty cheap. They have a lot of free stuff on there too. You can just grab and edit as your own artist cover art stuff.
And I think like a couple of the themes from the weekend and all the different talks, like you were saying, Grant, YouTube was there presenting, kind of pitching their platform to artists. Pandora was there.
Yes.
They had people they had somebody from Spotify there. And the gist of it is that all those platforms are totally dependent upon musicians putting out content so that their users can have something to engage with. Yeah. And so they have a vested interest in making sure that you are putting things out. And a lot of these different sites have a lot of resources for artists, and all of their algorithms, all of their algorithms, maybe with the exception of Spotify, are based on the consistency and frequency of which you post and upload. Yeah. And so they want to reward people that are putting out more content. And so, like YouTube, they were talking about priming your channel. They were like, you know, if you've been putting out anything in 6 months and then you put out this music video and you expect people to engage with it, I'm sorry, but our algorithm is going to
nailed it.
Yeah, they were so great at talking about like making all these different tease videos, like behind the scenes, acoustic making of
just
remixes,
drawing out, you know, like what covers, you have,
yeah.
You know, like how can you expand it into more things? Like, oh, make a lyric video and then make a music video and all of these different things, you know, but like putting things out at least 2 months in advance with scheduled regularity so that their platform will just boost whatever you have and like allow your users to see it more. And then like what Circa was saying, the other theme was that people engage with video and images, you know, and like if you put a link to an MP3 on Facebook, like who's going to click on that? You know, like somebody wants to see something, and for 50% of users that are engaging with like Facebook and Instagram, their audio is turned off on their phones. You know, like they don't necessarily have their headphones in. So you want people to engage with what you're doing. And so just put out some shitty video, but like putting out a video will allow people to actually see your work that you've put so many hours into.
Yeah.
So
Facebook they deprioritize when you put a link to an external website like SoundCloud. They're gonna like bury that algorithm unless you promote it, because they don't want people to leave Facebook. So it's like if you want people to hear the song, then you need to have a Facebook video with the song.
Yeah.
Like if you just post a link to the SoundCloud, you're gonna have to pay Facebook to basically put that in front of people.
And you might have to, you know, edit whatever video that you've made so that it works on these different platforms too.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously Instagram, that's a 1 minute video.
Yeah.
And it's square versus Facebook. I don't know how many, like, I don't know what the resolution is.
And Instagram stories are totally different.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's true. Yeah. And so you have to almost like re-edit video just for the platform that you're using.
But there are tools to help you do that.
Yeah. The Art Tracks thing I mentioned, they actually have different templates for that. So you can just upload one video and then chop it and edit it for multiple platforms, which is kind of nice, and export for those. One thing we also talked about, like, keep moving. We could literally sit here for like 7 hours and talk about all the stuff we learned. But I know that you, Faye, were also at the email one. Briefly touching on that, you know, we talked about like Facebook will only show certain people certain posts based on how engaging it is or how like well it starts to like take off based off of the algorithms. But you know, one thing I heard really well, Cheryl Engelhart was, I think I might have butchered her name, but Cheryl was talking about on average, those that are using email properly should be earning $1 per subscriber per month. I don't know where she got that number from, but and another thing she talked about is like if you are trying to reach people on social media, you're just renting your fans at that point, because Facebook and Instagram and Twitter or whatever, Snapchat, they all like basically you're just renting them, and they're deciding what posts are being shown to what people. But everybody's going to use email forever and ever. Like everybody has an email address, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. So you can always reach those people. If you have somebody's email address, you can own your fans in that sense. And so she talked about that. She also said like the average organic reach on Facebook is 42%, and that 66% of people are more likely to buy through email than they are on social media. So it's interesting. What did you take from that workshop? What she was talking about with people's attention spans on email versus Facebook resonated.
I mean, I don't know where she got her statistics from, but I mean, if anything, people's attention spans are only getting smaller.
I know
with
mine
everything
is.
going on.
Yeah, personally, mine is too. Like, it's true.
Speaking for myself.
But yeah, it's like email makes sense. It's like the most attention you're going to get from somebody.
Yeah, and she was just talking about the patterns of the ways that people use email. Like in the morning, somebody will log onto their email and look through it, you know? And so you have somebody whose eyes are fresh, the beginning of their day, looking at their email, and, you know, like maybe they'll spend 20 seconds looking at your email, but they're only going to spend like 3 seconds looking at a Facebook post before scrolling on. She talked a lot about how to build your email list and how that should be a major focus of what you're doing as an independent creative. And she also talked about like the ways in which we use our email marketing. And I know for us, like we have an email list. It's kind of sad, you know, like we've sent out 2 updates in like the 8 months that we've had.
Yeah, no,
like,
same.
Hey guys, you know,
Same here.
Like, what show this week? You know, it's like.
And she emphasized that is a broadcast. That's not like, that's like a real-time update. That's not so much like a campaign. And so she was like, yeah, when you have new users join your email list, you should, within the first week of them signing up, you should send them a welcome email. And talked a lot about, you know, the stages of building a relationship, which is something that a few of the other speakers touched on throughout the weekend, which is kind of basic human psychology and also marketing. Start with allowing somebody to get to know you and opening up conversations and just telling them about who you are and your story. Do that on a weekly basis. And really, with a new subscriber, you should send them 1 email a week for 4 weeks and just tell different pieces of your story. And then after you've allowed somebody to get to know you in that way, like after multiple consistent follow-ups, like telling them about who you are, your work, what inspires you, what your dog's name is, etc. I don't know.
That makes sense.
More appropriate to be like, hey, here's my CD, or like, here's some information about a show, you know. But like building that conversation and that relationship, because as she pointed out, it's like nobody proposes to somebody on the first date, you know. Like if you want somebody to give their money to you, people are very sensitive about that in this day and age, and you really need to like build a relationship. And so she talked about like writing these emails ahead of time and like kind of batching that work. You know, like, okay, I'm gonna write out this series of 4 emails that is about me and my philosophy behind what I do. And then at that point in time, whenever I get a new subscriber, I can send this automated thing that's gonna come out on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And then she also mentioned like being sure to engage with anybody that responds and like, really inviting people to respond.
Yeah, it was a good work. She had a lot of really good, interesting things to share in that, like all you just shared. But I use MailChimp personally for all those workflows. Do you guys have a certain email platform that you signed up with?
We have a MailChimp account. Again, this is like...
It's pretty new, yeah.
But MailChimp, I think, is the best, but...
The other thing we got out of the whole conference is that, like, we have a lot more shit to do. So.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Same here.
There's so many ways to be a productive DIY artist. There's so many companies and platforms, and it's just about running yourself like a business and putting the work in
and being consistent.
Yeah, that sounds like, I mean, with email, that seems like a great constant conversation with your fans. Yeah, I mean,
totally. And one thing, as far as like engaging and having that contact with fans, or maybe even people that are fans that you don't even know are out there yet, Pandora had a setup which I found was honestly probably one of the highlights of any session I went to. It wasn't even a session. They just like had their own booth set up with all the sponsors.
I know I'll cut you off, but like, yeah, Andy, I don't know if he told you this, but they actually had no budget to come to the festival. But Andy, and I didn't talk to the other person, but they like came on their own and were just gonna like be there.
No, you're right, dude. It was awesome. That's cool. I didn't even know they weren't even planning on being there. Like that's wild. They just showed up and they're like, "Hey, can we have a booth?" That's crazy. They so Pandora, I honestly was like hating on Pandora the last couple years and like been investing my time and efforts into like Spotify and other main platforms. I always thought Pandora was kind of dying until like I ended up finding this out. But when you distribute through like CD Baby or DistroKid or whatever your distributor is, a lot of times it's not directly going to be uploaded straight to Pandora. They kind of have their own platform, and he explained why and a lot of reasons I'm not going to go into. But so Pandora is launching this thing called AMP. It's like an artist marketing platform. Spotify for Artists kind of has their own thing. If you guys haven't already set up a Spotify for Artists account, you need to do that. It's really easy. It's like artist.spotify.com or something like that. But the analytics platform that Andy showed us was like way deeper and goes farther than what Spotify shows you as far as the analytics, to the point of where with AMP, when you set up an account with Pandora, you have to claim your artist, and then you also can like choose the songs that you've already distributed. So once you've published through DistroKid or CD Baby, you can pick those songs and then upload it straight to your Pandora account, and then people on Pandora can start streaming it. But it's awesome as an artist because they did this thing like called Stories, which is where you can actually record and upload audio, say of yourself talking, saying, hey, wrote this new song about, my grandma baking cookies or whatever. And then that song that you wrote about your grandma baking cookies, like it'll actually stream that as an intro before the song. So you can forever. Yeah, right. It'd be awesome. Like, yeah, it's beautiful. So you can actually really engage with your audience listening to your tracks and have an intro before your song is actually streamed. Or if you're like going on tour, you can actually select on the map. You can see where people are streaming you on Pandora, and then you can target those certain states or the geography, saying, hey, like I want to reach people that are streaming my music in this area in like Nebraska or whatever. And then you can send a direct message to those people. And you can also create singles or playlists that are curated and have a private link to send to your fans. So you could have like your own audio uploaded for a specific playlist and then share it on Facebook or Instagram being like, hey guys, like I created this new playlist with this theme, check it out. And it's a good way to engage people that way. So there's a lot of other stuff on there too. It gives you a lot more analytics. That's super dope. Pandora's killing it right now as far as that goes.
All that is free, like those audio ads. I mean, I guess they're just trying to stay in the game, because on Spotify, the Spotify Talk, they were pushing that as like a great way to advertise, but that definitely costs money on Spotify. And so Pandora, it's free, and obviously it seems like there's a lot more users on Spotify nowadays, but yeah, people definitely still use Pandora, so that's amazing.
It's big. I'm a huge fan. And for people who maybe don't want to play out live, or producers, this is the Ableton podcast. A lot of people just making beats and stuff.
Dungeon beats.
Making beats, baby. Yeah.
Bird calls are us.
Bird calls are us. That's the name of my.
That's where it's at. Yeah, that bird call sample pack.
Can you give the podcast a little sample?
Woo! That's good. It sounds like an auto filter, but you don't even need one. Like that's perfect. It's got that nice wiggle to it. That's beautiful. You can't teach that. That's raw talent, ladies and gentlemen.
Sample pack is coming soon, guys.
Yeah, we should make an Animal Prince.
The Animal Prince sound pack. Yeah, I'll share a link to that whenever it comes out. I'll send it out to my mailing list.
It'll be free. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so making a living selling beats online was another session that I went to. I don't think you guys were there, but it was really good. There's a website called beatstars.com. You can use the promo code DIY, and I think you get like a free membership for a month. But for anybody that wants to like sell music, I'm sure everybody listening out there at some point has had multiple tracks that are like 50% done that they never finish. But it's not a bad idea just to like polish it off and finish it off, even if it's only like a 2-minute beat, and you can upload it to this website. And a lot of these beats are selling between like $25 to $40. So why not just make money off of it? If you're not going to release it under your own artist name or whatever, or if you just want to start cranking out tons of beats like really fast and make money off of them, BeatStars is a great way to do that. And you can also buy royalty-free beats and stuff off of there too. So anybody listening, you know, they have all genres. It's not just rap or hip hop. They've got like EDM and future bass and all different kinds of stuff. So it's a good way to make money off of just making music and putting it up there and selling it off to people. And so BeatStars, it's a good place to go. And you can also see the analytics of who buys your beats, and you can actually message and connect with them. And you could actually create like a long-term customer that way and be like, hey, if you're looking for music to score for your like videos or whatever, I'd be happy to continue working with you. And so check that out. That's a cool site if you want to get into that. Was there any other sessions that like stuck out to you guys? I know we could literally talk about this for the next like 12 and a half hours. But you know, we do have other things we have to do. So
I guess like the biggest thing from the weekend was also just leaning on other people that are doing the same thing as you and like supporting each other. And, you know, I mean, I think that it's easy to get in this kind of competition mentality with people that are at a similar level to you. But the reality is that, you know, you can help each other up, you know, and so like that was also a theme of the weekend was how can you collaborate with other independent artists or share resources or even help cross promote each other's work on your different platforms and stuff. And so, and like personally speaking, we met a lot of really awesome people over the course of the weekend that are all over kind of just hustling, just Dan included,
working the grind.
Yeah, but I mean, just leaning on your fellow creatives and sharing ideas with them. And like one of the things that kind of came out of this was even starting an accountability group for doing all this semi bullshit work that we got to do as musicians, you know, like the emailing, setting up marketing campaigns.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but you know, Cheryl in her talk mentioned this. If your passion is music and sending emails could help generate money for you to do your music, you are passionate about email by extension, you know? And so like connecting that you have to do all these things when you are a team of one or two, or, you know, like a small lean team. And moral of the story, it's totally doable. And if you're not making headway, it's because you're not doing it, you know? So like you have the power to like change your own and support yourself with your music, which is it was great to like build our little like posse of like musicians that were going to the conference. It's not just networking with the companies that were there, but it was just all the other artists that were there. And the weekend we had this little clique there that was super fun. And now we're staying in contact, and I think accountability group, or like I feel like it would be good. Like BC's putting out a single right now. We should like what he's been doing. And like BC is another friend of ours from the Bay Area that went to the conference as well. BISI. It's like an amazing Afro pop kind of artist.
Yeah, he's got some like hip hop, reggae, different genre blended style. He's a cool homie. I loved that dude. He's awesome. Shout out to him.
And it's his birthday today.
Oh, it's a birthday podcast. Woo.
Putting out a new single today, and we're playing at his superhero-themed birthday party, so it should be a lot of fun.
So what superhero are you guys going to be?
You know, that's an excellent question,
We got to figure that out.
And it's going to be a grab bag approach,
I think, Grant, you should be Captain Underpants.
Well,
I think that would be perfect for you.
What we talked about when we were in Austin is that I need to be McBooty, which was a twerk star.
Yeah. For anybody, this is a little backstory. So like Grant, one of our friends, she's a great dancer, and so she taught Grant how to twerk, and he has a natural gift, really. It's something you can't even teach. He just picked it up right away at the hotel room with everybody standing around, just started twerking it. And honestly, I think that's your niche, man. You know how to dominate the niche market? I think that's yours right there. The twerk market. You're bringing sexy back. Yeah.
Twerk it, man.
I was hoping to open up for Big Frida soon on her Bay Area tour.
Perfect.
True story. Our old band actually did open for Big Frida in Gainesville, Florida.
Really, we were not supposed to open up.
I don't know who put that
That's
together.
cool.
We didn't know she was at the time until
That's
we knew
awesome.
she was. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it was one of the best shows we ever played.
That's wild.
It was the most lit show by far that we've ever
Maybe
played.
that's where maybe that's where it all started.
It all started.
Dude,
But yeah, anyhow, we're working on our niche.
Well, that's
Grant's
cool.
working on his.
I think it's a perfect example and like an ending segue right there. Is like you never really know what's going to happen, and the way that it's usually going to happen is just getting out there and meeting people and supporting other artists in your local scene, and just building those relationships and like helping them out and having them help you out and just spreading the love of music and things. You never know what's going to come out of that. Like when I got to play at Electric Forest, it really just stemmed out of me having a conversation with a guy who turned out to be the booking manager there. Like it was just
hell yeah.
completely random. Like they just made a friend and was like, oh, you also happen to be the booking manager here. That's wild. And you know, next thing I know, he booked me the next weekend because he liked my music, and another band backed out. Like that stuff happens. So support, like it's easy to get in a funk and feel like you're just like swimming alone in this ocean of aloneness. But yeah, like building that community and wherever you're at is huge.
Yeah.
Folks show. Yeah, and honestly, the twerking masterclass grant, we're looking forward to that as well. So
I mean, yeah. I feel like I gotta go to Tiff on that one.
yeah, that's true. You have to give her
Quick
some
plug for Hazel, Hazl.
Hazel
Tiffany,
music.
Our friend Tiffany. They're kind of like Sylvanesso inspired electro-pop.
She's got an amazing voice.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and an amazing booty. On the record.
Yeah.
Where's the that song that you put together Sunday at the festival? You produced that.
Yeah, no, okay, that was actually really fun. So the last night of the conference, we're all hanging out. We had a few drinks. We ended up going back to a hotel room, and there was like all like 10 of us or whatever. Everybody just kind of took a turn recording on this track, hovered over my laptop in like this really jank setup, and it turned out to be awesome. And Faye, she's a phenomenal violinist, and we were in the bathroom. She's just recording next to the toilet, playing violin. Honestly, the reverb in the bathroom was perfect for violin over this mic. It was really fun, and I'm actually working on it. So my bass player for Philia, he ended up tracking bass on it 2 nights ago. So it's a work in progress. It's been slow, but it's on its way, I promise.
It's amazing.
Is my water sample still in there?
Oh, absolutely, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that out. Yeah, no, that was a perfect splash. We ended up sampling Grant like splashing in the pool, and my phone got really wet, and I'm glad it didn't.
The full spectrum of like the Hilton.
It was worth it. Yeah. That was wild. That was a good time.
Combinations.
For sure.
Got some samples from the breakfast bar. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Shout out to our other friends, Nasila.
I realized that
Yeah,
Nosila
Allison.
is just Allison spelled backwards.
Oh, it is Allison music, but Nasila music.
Who's about to put out some of her own music.
She's releasing an EP like next week.
Yeah, she's a producer, solo artist, who I think she was trained like classically for voice. Her voice is beautiful, but like
it is. I've heard her.
Super amazing, beautiful, kind of like dark, so like female pop electronica. And she's about to put out some music. BC, who put out a single today for his birthday. That's BISI. He's Nigerian Afro-pop artist.
Dude, this track is hot.
And our friend Kalista, don't forget about her. She is amazing. I love her. She's hilarious. She's a free bird.
Her Instagram.
Her Instagram's amazing. Kalista Cheyenne is her Instagram handle. Follow her.
Bands out of Portland.
Fortune's Folly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's her band. Yeah, they're doing pretty well. It seems like they're blowing up. Fortune's Folly she's the lead singer of that band thing.
And then Fish, who's
Fish. Bad Camper is the name of his new project, and that's really fun. It's like a Mumford and Sons kind of something. He's really, really talented, and he just put out his first single called Dreams. Bad Camper.
Sounds amazing. I think
it's
he just
super dope.
Out for distribution.
We need to just share the the Spotify playlist with everyone, right?
Oh, we're going to. Yes. Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. So everybody go to the show notes right now. If you're listening, we have a list from the DIY Musician Conference of all of our friends, talented friends that we met that are DIY artists that are putting out some super dope music. So go listen to that. I'll include a link in the show notes. If you're looking for some new music and people to support that are really good people that we can vouch for, go check these homies out. So,
yeah.
Well, I think that's like a good way to wrap up. Much love to you guys for spending your wonderful Friday morning with me for the second time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is.
I want to
every Friday now.
Maybe we should. Yeah, honestly, this is like a good therapy session for me, just to like kick myself in the butt and being like, "All right, Dan, go send some emails." It's gonna be awesome. tell everybody there I said hello. BC, all the friends.
All right.
Cool.
Best of luck. Thank you.
See you guys. Peace out. Later. This podcast is sponsored by liveproducersonline.com, a community of Ableton Live users connecting you to the pros to learn today's music production.